Good afternoon, my dear students. Welcome to the online video class session of Sociology, second semester. So, my dear students, the second semester titled itself as the Indian Society and its Structure and Change. So, in the process of that, we have been discussing about the various perspectives of the study of sociology. So, my dear students, in our previous class, we discussed about the ideological perspective. So, Indological perspective is explained by the various sociologists. So, the Indian perspective of Indology is explained by Manu, who was the father of Indian ancient philosophy. And in addition to that, we have also discussed about G.S. Gray, who was considering as the father of sociology in India. So, father of Indian sociology, so G.S. Gray. And we have also discussed about Louis Dumont, so who was proposed the caste and its implications in India, and he was proposed the theory of Varna. So these are the things we discussed in our previous class. So today, let us discuss about the structural functionalism perspective. So there are various perspectives to study the Indian sociology. So the last previous classes are studied about the ideological or textual perspectives. Whereas now let us discuss about the concept of the structural functional perspective. So my dear students, I was prepared a PPT PowerPoint presentation for your understanding, for the sake of your understanding. So let's go in detail about the PPT. So my dear students, this is the brief PPT that the paper titled as Indian Society, Structure and Change. So here the concept we are discussing under the perspective on the study of Indian society, it is the first unit. So under the first unit, we have to study the various perspectives like the ideological perspective we have discussed. So today, let us discuss about the structural functionalism perspective. So the structural functionalism perspective is explained by various philosophers, sociologists. But here, in the part of our curriculum framework, we have need to study about only two important personalities, such as M.N. Srinivas and S.C. Dubey. So here, the structural functionalism perspective or approach is tries to explain the various social forms of social structure. So various forms of social structure. The society is divided into various forms. So it explains about the various forms of social structure. And in addition to that, the structural functionalism helps to understand the ordering and patterning of the social world. So how the society is ordered and how it has patterning in the society. This is what explained by the structural functionalism. So here in India, there are various sociologists who worked on the structural functionalism. So like M.N. Srinivas, Shyam Charan Dubey, M.C. Kim, Marriott, I.P. Desai, D.N. Majumdar, and others. So these are the important sociologists who contributed their ideas in the form of structural functionalism perspective to understand the society in a systematic manner. So this is about the structural functionalism. So let us discuss about the main important exponent of the structural functionalism is M.N. Srinivas. So M.N. Srinivas is one of the most important sociologists in India. So M.N. Srinivas, his full name is Mysore Narasimhachari Srinivas. So he belongs to the Karnataka state, so near Mysore. So that is why his initial is called as Mysore Narasimhachari Srinivas. So he was the good and popular Indian socialist. He was the most known for his works on the and caste system, and also social stratification and Sanskritization in South India. He was exclusively focused on South India in the terms of caste and caste system, and also social stratification. So these are the things which were highly studied by the M.N. Srinivasan, exclusively in South Indian part of the India. So M.N. Srinivasan was established as sociology as the structural functionalist discipline in India. So that is why he was the worldwide famous personality of structural functionalist Indian sociologist. So M.N. Srinivas was trying to explain the dynamics of the caste and its social system through the terms like Sanskritization and dominant caste. So with these two terms, he was explained the dynamics of caste and its social system in India. While he was explaining about the caste system, or while he was explaining about the social structure, or he was explaining about the social stratification, he was used the terms Sanskritization, dominant caste, and westernization, and sometimes he was used the various terms like secularization. So these are the terms he was used while explaining his concept. Then when it comes to M.N. Srinivasan's writings, so he was written a number of books, elaborative books. So M.N. Srinivasan has written on many aspects of Indian society, such as he was written on the culture, he was written on the religion, he was written on the caste, he was written on the village and its communities, and he was also written on the social change in the society. So he was influenced by his teacher, Radcliffe Brown. So Radcliffe Brown was the professor in Oxford University. So the professor of Oxford University, Radcliffe, was the teacher of M.N. Srinivas. So it means the M.N. Srinivas was studied studied in Oxford University under the guidance of the Radcliffe Browns. So M.N. Srinivasan's writings are based on the intensive field work in South India in general, and particularly in the area of Coorg and Rampura village. So this is the writing style and the approach or methodology of M.N. Srinivasan. So M.N. Srinivasan produced outstanding works, a number of works. So for example, Marriage and Family. This is the first work of M.N. Srinivasan. So Marriage and Family in Mysore. So how the marriage system was taking place exclusive in the South Indian part of Mysore. So this book was written in the year of 1942. So it seems before independence. And the second book is The Religion and Society Among the Coorgs of South India. So is most of the studies are applicable or relevant to the South Indian part. So here the Coorg is one of the tourist place in the Karnataka. So here he was studied about the religion and society among the Coorg of South Indian. How the Coorg people are stratified with religion and society. So this is the second book of M.N. Srinivasan, which is written in the year of 1952. And the third book is Indian Villages. So this book was written in the year of 1955. The fourth book is The Caste in Modern India and Other Essays. So here, this book was written in the year of 1962. It was mostly focused on the caste in the modern India. So before India's independence, the caste system was different, and whereas in the modern era, means after independence, the caste structure was changed with the impact of British colonial rule. Some changes has taken place. So these issues were highlighted in this book, and the social change in modern India. So somewhat this book is relevant to the caste in modern India. But here, caste in modern India, he was focused only on the caste. But whereas in social change in modern India, in this book, he was highlighted all the aspects like caste, religious, cultural. So almost all the issues. So like enculturation, acculturation. So these are the issues were highlighted in the social change in modern India. So this book was written in the year of 1966. And the another book is The Remembered Villages. So here the book Remembered Villages is exclusively deals about the tribal communities. So it was written in the year of 1976. And another book is India and the Social Structure. How India was structurized in a sociological point of view. Like if you take the caste wise, like Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. And if you take class wise, upper class, middle class, lower class. So if you take economical point of view, haves and have-nots. So like this, India and the social structure. This book was highlighted about the Indian social structure, how the Indian society is structurized in the name of caste, in the name of class, in the name of economy. So these are the things were highlighted in the India and the caste structure, social structure. The another book is The Dominant Caste and Other Essays. So here he was highlighted about the concept of dominant caste. So here in India, there are various castes were there in India. So according to the Hindu mythological literature or Hindu social order, the Brahmins are the superiors, or they are the dominant caste. And within the Brahmins, there are various kinds of subcategories are there. So the dominant caste and other essays in India. This book is written in the year of 1987. So here, if you take Andhra Pradesh, in Andhra Pradesh, in United Andhra Pradesh, the Brahmins, the Reddys, the Kammas, so these are the dominant castes. If you go to the North India, like Bihar, the Yadavs are dominant caste. And whereas if you go to Rajasthan, the Kshatriyas are the dominant caste. And whereas if you go to some districts like the East Godavari and West Godavari of United Andhra Pradesh, the scheduled caste is the dominant caste in that particular districts. So like that, the dominant caste, it was written about the dominant caste. So how the dominant caste plays a dominant role in Indian social structure. So how it has been playing its dominant role since from the beginning. So these kind of issues were highlighted in the dominant caste. So this book was written in the year of 1987. And the other book is The Cohesive Role of Sanskritization. How the culture has been taking place. So the cohesive role of Sanskritization. Here it was highlighted about the concept of Sanskritization. And the another books, there are various other books also there, like Village, Caste, Gender and Method. So it was highlighted, included, clubbed various concepts like village structure, caste and caste structure and its features, gender, the inferiority and superiority. So these are the things were highlighted in the book of Village, Caste, Gender and Method. So this book was written in the year of 1996. And finally, the Indian society through personal writings. He was highlighted the Indian society through the personal writings. So he was referred some various books and was added his own ideas in this book. So not only the above mentioned books, he was also written some other essays. So many other important essays like the on living in revolution and some reflections on the dowry. So was focused on the dowry and the insider and the outsider study of the clusters. So these are the essays. In addition to the books, he was written some of the essays. So these essays also focused on the contemporary issues of those days, like dowry and the inside and outside clusters. So these are the contemporary issues highlighted of those days, in particularly in the South Indian area. So M.N. Srinivas has written on many aspects of Indian society, like culture, religion, caste, village, community, and social change. The above mentioned books are given a kind of clear-cut understanding that he was focused on many issues like culture, caste, religion. So almost all the social concepts are covered by the M.N. Srinivas through his writings. So Srinivas writings are interdisciplinary writings. So one book is very relevant to the other book. One is dependent on other. So his entire concepts are interdependent, so like caste, religion, dominant caste, village studies. So these are all interdependent concepts. So that is why his entire writings are the interdisciplinary writings. So he was contributed various issues, various broad concepts like the social change. The social change is nothing but the changes which are taking place in the society in the name of culture, in the name of food, in the name of clothing styles, in the name of dressing style. So how the social change has taken place in the society in different forms. So this was highlighted by the M.N. Srinivas. So it was highlighted about the Brahmanization, how the Brahmanizations are become the superiors and how they are treated as the others as inferiors. So how the westernization has taken place and slowly how the secularization has taken place. So these are the changes were covered by M.N. Srinivas in his books, in his writings. And he was used the term dominant caste. So he was explained about the society with the term of dominant caste. Here, the dominant caste is the result of the Rampur village study. The Rampur village is which is located in the Mysore area. So this dominant caste field study experience is helps to understand the economical and political facilities, opportunities of the upper caste people. So here, the dominant caste has its own features, like it helps to the dominant caste or the dominant caste is availed various sources like economical sources and political facilities and political opportunities. So the dominant caste are highlights the uh, positions in all places like uh, rather than other castes. So here the dominant caste tries to follow the followed by other castes. So for example, the Brahmins are dominant caste. So many of the citizen, many of the people or many other caste groups are trying to follow the dominant caste like Brahmins. For example, the concept of Upanayana. Actually, the concept of Upanayana initially is the activity of Brahmins, but later on it was adopted by various communities like charis, like goldsmiths. So these are the communities are adopted the concept of westernization or Brahmanization. And the dominant caste plays an important role in the determining the areas, cultural activities. So if in a particular area, particular caste is the dominant caste, or particular community is the dominant caste, it directly or indirectly determine the cultural, directly or indirectly influences the cultural activities of that particular area. So these are the things highlighted by the M.N. Srinivas. So the M.N. Srinivas also identified the 6 features of dominant castes. So wherever they are, the dominant caste people have the 6 features like management. Wherever they are, they can manage. They have the management quality. And the second one is the strength, the population strength. Even though they are belongs to minorities, but they are strong in the form of mobilizing the other people by various factors like money or muscle, whatever it may be. And the third feature of the dominant caste is the local power. Locally, they are powerful people. For example, if you take villages, some of the communities used to call as Patels. Even though they are illiterate, they used to dominate on the educated people. Sometimes we have to say, Patel Namaste, like that. So the local people show their dominance towards other communities. And another feature of the dominant caste is the education and employment management and economical generation. So wherever they are, they avail education, and with that education they can avail the employment opportunities, and with that they can get income generation sources. So these are the features of the dominant caste. And urban resources. The dominant caste, one more feature is the urban resources. They always controls the urban resources. They invests in the urban areas by their income generation sources. And finally, they are the final feature of the dominant caste is the political involvement. So wherever they are, they slowly involve in the political activities. So if you take present Indian political scenario, the India is in India, majority people are the Bahujans, like SC, ST, BC, and religious minorities. But whereas only 20% people are belongs to upper caste. But the current politics or current the income is in the hands of the 20% of the minorities. So they are here the dominant caste. So here the minority in India, the minorities are the dominant caste. Like if you take Andhra Pradesh, Kamma, Kapu, Reddys, Telangana, like Raus, Velamas, and if you go to the Bihar, Yadavas. So like that, only a few communities are the dominant communities, but the majority of the Indian economy or the Indian politics are determining by themselves, determining by those minority communities or the dominant castes. So this is the situation of the dominant caste in India, according to the M.N. Srinivas. And he also focused on the religion and society. So the religion and society is the result of the Coorg field visit, empirical study. So he was studied on the empirical manner. He was more given more priority to the empirical study rather than the ontological or textual study. So that is why he was personally visited the Coorg area as field visit, and he was written a report on the religion and society. He identified that the downtrodden sections are used to follow the upper caste people like Brahmins. So this is not only in the Coorg area. Wherever we go, almost all the areas, the downtrodden sections were try to imitate the dominant caste or the upper caste people in terms of socially, economically, politically, and culturally. He also thought about the spread of Hinduism in India. Actually, he was done study about basically as Brahmin. Aman was basically Brahmin, and he was taught about the spread of Hinduism in India. And he was spoken about the various Hindu religious values and traditions according to the situation. So directly, he was supported to the Hinduism and the spread of Hinduism. So this is about the M.N. Srinivas idea of the structural functionalism of the Indian society. And M.N. Srinivas also criticized by various sociologists. So some of the issues were criticized of M.N. Srinivas. For example, M.N. Srinivas was ignored in his writings about the downtrodden sections. It was always given to the upper caste and Brahmins. He was always used the term dominant caste. So he was intentionally ignored the downtrodden sections. So this is one of the important criticism. And his ideas and thoughts are very near to the Hinduism and dominant caste, because basically he is Hindu and basically is Brahmin, and he was supported to the Brahmanism. So that is why his ideas and his thoughts are very near to the Hinduism and dominant caste. So this is the second criticism of M.N. Srinivas' writings or his structural functionalism. And finally, he fails to narrate about the scope of Sanskritization, Westernization, and social change. While he was explaining about the social change, Sanskritization, and Westernization, but he was failed to narrate the scope, how much scope was there to change their culture to the downtrodden section. That was ignored by him, and how much scope was there to to get Sanskritization of the Dalits or Muslim minorities or marginal sections. So this was ignored. So that is why he was fails to narrate about the scope of Sanskritization, Westernization, and the social change in his writings. So, my dear students, this is about the structural functionalism of M.N. Srinivas. So, if possible, next class we will discuss about the S.C. Dubey, Shyam Charan Dubey. He is also one of the famous structural functionalists in Indian sociology. So by here I am winding up